Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. It's time to talk about the future of legendary items once again. We have seen a sizable update to the Legion PTR for patch 7.2 that seems to give us a far better idea of how legendary items are going to be in this patch. So there's a new vendor in the Legion Vault area that sells relinquished gear tokens. Using these tokens will create a bit of gear that is appropriate for your current loot spec. The tooltip then says that it has a chance to contain a legendary item. Now, this has got many players thinking, and one of the predominant theories initially was that you would be able to use this feature to target a specific legendary item by its gear slot. After all, many players have been looking for a way to have more control over their legendary items. Really that's just because the utility ones tend to not really be valued by players. They just end up being stat sticks, while the other ones tend to have some very large effects on your character's throughput. Now, lore actually clarified that this is not the case. It would not have worked anyway, as each spec doesn't have a legendary item for each gear slot. Now, there is another set of items that was added to the PTR, and indeed a new spell which has been added, but it's more of a kind of just a background spell that exists for just for how the game sort of runs in the back end, and I think these point to the true state of affairs here. There are new items which are based on your class, and they are legendary tokens. Clicking on the token will reveal a legendary item for your current loot spec. Certainly it's nice to have, loot spec control over that for sure, and this is a system which then was basically confirmed by lore to be the actual one for the patch. Now, these tokens are purchased via nether shards, which are a new currency that has been added in patch 7.2. Now, the shards currently do not have a cap on the live game, and you can farm them by doing the Centenax grind that I covered in this video. Basically, you can kill mobs to get an item that spawns in a portal, which brings in more mobs, which can drop more items, which can drop or spawn more portals, which can spawn in even more powerful mobs, including a world boss with like loads of health, and basically all those mobs will give you nether shards. The overall numbers are not balanced at all yet. The one interesting note here is that the Broken Shore world quests do not give you nether shards. This means that the only way currently to get them is just to grind up mobs. Normally content like, say, the Apexis crystals in Tanan was done such that you could log in and do your dailies for a large burst of time-efficient currency, and then farm more if you really wanted to. They have not mentioned nether shards coming from Broken Shore world quests, so yeah, even though those quests have been on the PTR for weeks, so it's a bit tricky to see what they're really intending there. The tokens apparently don't work currently, and their current price is like 5 million or something, which has basically just been set so high that people are not able to earn them on the PTR. However, we do have a lot of past information to work off. These are highly similar to the Timeless Isle / Tanan Jungle gear tokens, which is something that lore then mentioned in his post, so I think it's very safe to say that it's going to be similar to the Timeless Isle and Tanan Jungle. In the Timeless Isle, it was viable to mob grind these items, but in Tanan, you really couldn't do that super effectively, especially in comparison to how much Apexis you got just from doing the quests. So I'm basically assuming right now that they're going to go in a more Timeless Isles-like direction with these nether shard gear tokens, due to how they have basically game designed the hell out of a mob grind to make it more interesting and engaging, and I actually do like what they've done with that whole Centenax spaceship thing. But what we basically have here is a wholesale system from D3. In Diablo 3, there is a currency called blood shards. You get blood shards from completing content such as bounties, and these are then spent on a vendor. Now, the gear from that vendor is based on a slot, and every time you buy one of those bits of gear, it's got a small chance to be a legendary. I'll go over my opinions on this towards the end of the video, but basically it's like that D3 system. On top of this, we then have new craftable items. These cost 65 bloods, a bunch of just normal crafting resources, and then 2 legendary crafting items. Getting these seems to be a decently elaborate process that involves currently killing some raid bosses and a few other things. Still, all we really know is the players will be able to craft specific legendaries, which is quite interesting, and also an interesting thing is the crafted ones are BOE, so you might be able to sell these to other players on the AH, or even give them to your alts if you wanted to try to level them up a bit faster. I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest, or even just about crafted legendaries as a concept, but I'm pretty sure we've already been over that in a previous video. So overall, what do I think about this system and legendaries on the whole in patch 7.2? Well, first, I think the one big mitigating factor here is that the legendary cap is not being expanded. It will remain at 2. This means that even though I have problems with the way that it is currently implemented, the real-world effects and problems are actually really limited. Many players who really care about the legendary system will already have the legendaries that they want, or at least be close to that, and most people will enter this patch with the pool of possible legendaries that they can get being quite small, since the system doesn't give dupes, as far as I know. Overall, the rate at which you get legendaries will have gone up due to this new system, while the equip cap has stayed the same. So, yeah, the problems are definitely mitigated, but that said, well, this is going to be no surprise, my thoughts, to those of you who have been on the channel for a while. But what is most important here is that you post what you think about legendaries, go into the comments, and upvote the ideas from other viewers that you particularly like. Ultimately, criticizing a system can only take us so far, so I really want to hear that kind of community feedback on that. Now, I think the Nether Shard gear basically is an utterly contemptible system that does not respect the time of players. Your own efforts have no real sway in a system like this, and it's actually 2 layers of RNG. First, there's the chance of getting a legendary drop at all, and then, of course, there's like the chance of which legendary will you actually get. Now, once again, I think the developers have crafted another wholly misguided system that will lead to further apathy and frustration for the players who really care about getting legendaries. Now, if you're someone who plays the game casually like myself, and therefore do not care about legendaries, the impact that this is going to have on you isn't that large. Will this hurt me? Or, grind my gears? No, it won't. The game of trying to get legendary items through Nether Shard gear tokens is just one that I won't be playing. I have already disengaged from that system. I'm not interested, therefore it won't be a pain point for me. As somebody who plays the game casually due to my schedule, I don't really mind how long it takes for me to get a bit of gear, or to reach a goal in the game. All I care about is that I can make meaningful progress within each gameplay session. With a system like this, it just feels like playing a double slot machine where I'm feeding my time just into a black box, wherein the numbers may or may not roll in my favor, and overall, it just feels like each spin of the slot machine is just throwing hours and, just 30 minutes, maybe an hour of my life, into that machine, which to me isn't really that engaging. Now, I'm not saying that, I don't play the game, for 5 hours a day, therefore I wanted to cater to me and give me lots of gear within a short period. I don't want that at all. I would rather it takes me longer to get a bit of gear than it does currently, but it's just something that I can more granularly work on, I suppose. That's really my thought there on the game design. I suppose to me it has felt kind of like Blizzard are a snake eating their own tail when it comes to some of these progression systems within the game, and I absolutely do empathize with them. It's really hard to try to get people to play your game more, but for me with legendaries, it doesn't seem like it's widely liked by the hardcore player base, and I don't really see much evidence that it's particularly great for casuals, bar the fact that it is kind of exciting that, anytime I do a bit of content, this crazy thing could happen, but I feel like that could be something that isn't a legendary and be almost equally exciting. And I guess just looking through my own video comments, most viewers seem to feel roughly the same way that I do, though of course not everyone does, and it's good that there is a range of opinions there. I think that these problems are magnified by the addition, just the problems with gearing. I think they're just magnified by the sort of the legendariness of these items and their procs and all of that. Overall, it just seems like Blizzard are kind of terrified that people will progress their character quickly and then quit the game because there isn't this infinite ceiling of progression. I think it's actually better that somebody reaches their goals, feels satisfied, and comes back next content patch, than for that person to quit the game because they feel like it's really eaten up their time. And I actually think this is doubly true with how amazing Blizzard have been with their content in Legion. We're getting a new patch every 3 or so months, so for me, it feels like Blizzard have been nailing the content but then shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to some of the systems progression. We don't need gearing to last for 12 months or 6 months because we're getting a patch every 3 months, and that's a patch that'll probably bring players back to the game anyway. Once again, my own thoughts on this don't really matter that much. What's important is that there's a discussion that takes place around this, so let me know in the comments, what kind of system would you like? And once again, when you're down there, if you see someone whose comment you like, hit that thumbs up button on it because that raises it to the top, And yeah, hopefully, the good ideas will float to the top or something along those lines. But there you go. That is a look at the new legendary system, my thoughts on it, and hopefully this is just the start, the jumping off point of some form of conversation that can happen. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.